Hello, I'm Joe Haddow, and this is our series of interviews with the Theakston Old Peculier Crime Novel of the Year Award Longlistees, produced and curated by Harrogate International Festivals in partnership with Theakston Old Peculier, WHSmiths and the Express. Today I'm joined by an award-winning author who was born here but now lives in Australia. She started her journalism career in Hull, so not too far away from Harrogate, and became a full-time writer after the publication of her debut novel, The Dry. Here to tell us about The Lost Man, which is her latest novel, I'm pleased to be joined by Jane Harper. Hello, welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
It's so lovely to see you, and all the way over there in Australia, the power of technology.
That's right, yeah, fantastic, isn't it?
How is it over there at the moment, where you are?
Yeah, it's an evening for starters. I think obviously it's morning over where you are, and we're just getting to autumn as well. So we're sort of watching all the leaves change from in lockdown, as you know, many people
lockdown
are.
Leaves.
That's right. Yeah. So you know, when it's sort of a little bit cooler, which makes it a little bit easier to stay inside, I think, which is fortunate for us at least.
Yeah, and I noticed that you've got the fire on there, so you're all cozy.
That's right. Yes.
Well, congratulations on being longlisted for the award. And this is for the book, as I mentioned, The Lost Man. This is your latest novel. And for those who might not have read it yet, could you tell us a little bit about the Bright family and about the story?
Yeah, sure. So The Lost Man is an Australian mystery, and it's set in outback Queensland in one of these really, really remote areas of Australia where you have these huge sort of properties like cattle farms, and their neighbours are hours and hours apart from each other. So it's set in a fictional one of those sort of communities, and it centres around the mysterious death of one of three brothers who was found dead a long way from home and alone on land, though, that he knew very well. And his two other brothers find this unusual, and they start to, I guess, ask questions about what was happening in his life up to leading up to his death.
And you mentioned that it's set in the outback of Queensland, and I remember reading The Dry when it first came out, and thinking about that sort of that place that you create, which is obviously based on real Australia, but you know, the descriptions of it really put you there in the place. I've spoken to many authors who are on this long list, a lot of Scottish authors who've sort of said that they have a love for their cities like Glasgow and things as a setting for crime novels. What is it about Australia that you love as a setting for your books?
Oh, Australia is such a gift, I think, for writers, especially mystery writers. I think because it's so diverse, it's really easy to get into difficulty really quickly. Just with the harsh extremes. You don't have to go too far before trouble can find you. I think it's so sort of cinematic in a way. It really kind of gives you an opportunity to bring the setting to life in a way that, for me, I always try and make sure the setting is really woven through the book, so that by the end of the book, that story couldn't have been told in any other setting. The setting is so integral to it, and it drives the characters, and it influences who they are as people, and it really is part of the plot. And this one, The Lost Man in particular, was so much fun to research. I went all the way to the outback. I did a sort of massive kind of trip with a retired police officer who worked out there for 10 years and was the only police officer policing an area the size of the UK, all on his own.
Wow.
So he had a few stories to share, as you can imagine, and I learned a huge amount. It's a completely different lifestyle, and it was really enjoyable for me to be able to bring that to life in the book.
That's so interesting, because my next question was going to be, do you visit these places, because they seem so vivid when you're reading about them in your books, and obviously you do. And do you take photos or sketches, or what? How do you sort of bring that back and then put it on the page?
Yeah, I do. I definitely try and do as much sort of on the ground research as possible, because I think it just really helps you never know what you're going to learn. You always learn things you would have never known to ask, really, until you've been there. The Lost Man in particular was a really big one, because it's such a different lifestyle. I mean, it's very Australian at heart, but it's a part of Australia that a lot of us never see, because we live in the urban or coastal areas, and it's a real quite a lot of effort to actually get out there. You have to go on like regional aircraft and drive a long way, and you have to have sort of someone who has four-wheel driving experience and have all this supply. So it's not even easy to get there, really. And being able to kind of immerse yourself in it, I think, is so important, because you get the sense, not just the practical things, which are so important. So, for example, how they use the radios and how they get their supplies and what the cars, need to be to function out there. But just, I guess, the emotional aspects as well. Like, what's it actually like to live in a community that's so isolated and so cut off from everywhere else? And what kind of mental and emotional toll does that take on people?
I bet there's quite a few people in lockdown in cities at the moment wishing they were out in the outback now.
Do you know, I was actually thinking about that. I was thinking I would be really curious to know how the situation is affecting people in the outback, if at all. Like, is it are they already so isolated that really, it makes no real material difference? I'd be curious to know, really, because it's it is a very isolated place all the time.
And actually, this book is a perfect lockdown read for those that haven't, isn't it? Because you get to escape to this vast countryside. So it might be quite nice for someone to have the escapism in the pages, because we can't.
That's right. That's right.
Now, we've mentioned the long list. You're one of 18 authors and books on the list, which is a fabulous list, and everyone's saying it, and I keep saying it as well. You've obviously read some of those authors that have appeared on the list. You probably know a few of them. Are there some standouts from that list that have been authors you've loved before you became a writer, or even have discovered since?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to be part of a list that has so many of my favourite authors and people that I've looked up to for so many years on it. I mean, Val McDermid is an obvious choice. I mean, she's someone I've read for years and years. Lee Child, I really love his books a lot, and I've followed him again for years since I first discovered them. Mick Herron as well. They've got some really such. It's really an honour to see my book alongside those books, and it's fantastic to kind of, I guess, hope that people have enjoyed The Lost Man in the way that they maybe enjoyed those other books is really special to me.
I mean, you were longlisted for this award back in 2018, and that was for The Dry. How did it feel to hear that you'd been longlisted again for the biggest award in crime fiction?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. I think something that any author recognizes the kind of passion and the excitement that this festival and the people who are involved in it bring to sort of the crime fiction scene, and that people who really know their stuff, they know their books, and so I think it's to have your novel recognised by people who are so well read and so kind of familiar with all the authors and all the books out there is it's fantastic. I'm really happy.
Now, there'll be many fans of your first book who are probably watching, who are excited about the screen adaptation. Can you tell us any more about that and what's happening?
Yeah, I mean, and they should be excited. I have to say, it's. I've seen it. I've seen the film of The Dry, which is starring Eric Bana as Aaron Falk, and it is excellent. It is a superb adaptation, and I think people will really love it. And it's due to be released in Australia in August. Whether I think whether that is still definitely the case or not, I think watch this space a little bit. But it's I think it's really fantastic to see something that is so special to me as a novel be brought to life in this completely different way, and such a really beautiful, I think, thoughtful way that I think readers will love.
Did you have much involvement in making it for the screen, or did you sort of pass it over and sit back and go, you deal with it?
I mainly passed it over. I mean, I was sort of, the people behind it, which is Made Up Stories, which is run by a woman called Bruna Papandrea, who is Australian by birth. She and her team have been very good about keeping in touch and keeping me, in the loop. And the director and the screenwriter is a guy called Robert Connolly, who's an Australian director, and he has done a fantastic job, I think, of just capturing, just really the feel of it, the whole, the Australianness, but also the characters and the plots, and just shooting it so beautifully. So, it's been a real joy to see it.
Oh, wow. Well, we can't wait to see it, and hopefully it'll make its way over to us at some point when,
yes, I hope so.
Maybe when we're allowed to go to the cinema again.
That's right, yes.
So you've been busy writing, I take it. There's a fourth book on the way?
There is, yeah. So that's just really in its final sort of stages of, proofreadings and things now. It's my fourth book called The Survivors, and it is another Australian mystery. It's a standalone, and it's set in the rugged coastline of Tasmania, which is a southern island state here in Australia. And it's a lot of small town intrigue and secrets, and a body on the beach. It's got a lot of fun stuff. This was a really fun one to write. I really enjoyed this, and it's come together in the way I hoped. So I hope readers enjoy it.
Good, and we look forward to that one as well then in the future. Just before we let you go, I'm asking everyone this, and I wanted to ask you, what does the Theakston Old Peculier Crime Novel of the Year award mean to you?
Oh, I think it's just recognition from such a trusted source, I guess. People who, like I said, they know their stuff, they know what they're looking for, and they know what makes a good crime novel. And I think if your novel is longlisted or goes further, I think that's such a wonderful stamp of approval. And what more can you ask for?
Exactly, yeah. And that book that we're talking about is called The Lost Man, and it's published by Little Brown. It's out now, and if you haven't read that one or any of Jane's books, then you can, of course, order them from WHSmiths and enjoy them. And remember that you get to vote for our shortlist. So if you want to see Jane on that list, head over to harrogatetheakstoncrimeaward.com and you can place your vote there. Jane, it's been lovely speaking to you, and we wish you the best of luck with this and for the new book and for the adaptation of The Dry, which we're looking forward to. And we'll let you get back to the fire now.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks very much.